clock on the nightstand glowed 3:17 a.m., red digits floating in the dark. Elena lay on her back, one hand over her cheek where Marcus's slap still burned. The heat pulsed with her heartbeat, swelling under her fingertips. The house was quiet refrigerator humming, old beams sighing, but inside her, everything roared. In the guest room down the hall, Marcus had slammed the door and collapsed into bed an hour ago. She'd listened to his footsteps, the mattress creak, the familiar rise of his snores. Once that sound had meant safety. Now it was a warning. He slept peacefully after hurting her. When the snores finally evened out, she slid from bed, moving like a shadow. In the bathroom light, the mirror showed the bruise blooming purple across her cheekbone, a jagged shape like a crooked continent. She tilted her face, studying it. Evidence, she thought. She opened her phone. No flash. 7 photos, different angles, timestamp 3:29 a.m. She emailed them to herself, to her best friend Laura, and a new folder titled, "For When I'm Ready." Then she opened notes and typed, "Call Laura, 5 a.m. Call non-emergency police. 5:30 a.m. Urgent care at 7 a.m. Do not speak to Marcus. Pancakes, bacon, berries, coffee. Making it look normal." Her fingers paused over that last line. Normal tasted bitter. Downstairs, the ruined dinner still sat on the stove, rice burned into a black crust. The argument had started with that just rice, then his rage, then his hand. She scraped the pot out, the noise shockingly loud, and took the trash outside. The moon hung low and orange, painting long shadows across the kitchen floor. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory. "The kitchen is the heart of the home, mija. Feed it love, and it feeds you back." She'd been feeding this kitchen fear for years. Elena opened the pantry. Everything was lined up the way Marcus liked it, labels facing out, cans in height order, but tonight she saw weapons, not groceries. Pancake mix, maple syrup, thick-cut bacon, eggs, frozen blueberries. The lazy Sunday breakfast she'd planned would serve another purpose. She set the griddle on the stove, whisked batter in her grandmother's chipped ceramic bowl, laid bacon in the cast-iron skillet. The scent of vanilla, butter, and frying meat filled the air. She arranged berries and sliced strawberries in cut glass dishes, toasted sourdough, brewed dark coffee strong enough to strip paint, as Marcus liked to boast. By dawn, the table looked like a magazine spread. 4 plates, cloth napkins folded into swans, orange juice in a crystal pitcher catching the first light. It looked like an apology. It was a trap. At 5 a.m., she called Laura. Her friend answered on the first ring, sleep gone the moment she heard Elena's whisper. It happened again. "Same plan," Laura said, already moving. "Same, but this time I'm ready. I'll be there in 10. Stay on the line." At 5:30, Elena called the non-emergency number. The dispatcher's calm voice grounded her. "Officers are on their way, ma'am. Do not engage with the suspect." Suspect. The word felt heavy and right. When the patrol cars turned into the cul-de-sac, their lights off but presence unmistakable, Elena's hands trembled with adrenaline. Officer Ramirez, compact with kind eyes, stepped through the door first. "Ma'am, are you injured?" Elena nodded and touched her cheek. Officer Hayes began photographing everything: the bruise, the immaculate breakfast, the silent house. Laura, already at the table with her laptop, murmured, "TRO draft is ready. We'll file at 8. Marcus appeared at the top of the stairs in sweatpants, hair wild, sniffing the air. "Pancakes," he said, smiling, satisfied. "Good, you finally understood." He came down the stairs, turned the corner, and froze. Ramirez sat at the table sipping coffee. Hayes stood near the patio door. Laura occupied his seat at the head of the table, suit crisp, face unreadable. Elena stepped out of the kitchen doorway, phone recording, bruise stark in the morning light. "Good morning, Marcus. Breakfast is served, but you're not eating with us." Ramirez rose. "Mr. Thompson, step back. We have a report of assault and battery. You're coming with us." For the first time in years, his arrogance cracked into fear. While Hayes cuffed and read his rights, Elena sat on the couch and told Ramirez everything. The burned rice, the raised voice, the slap, the years of escalation. Click by click, the camera turned her pain into a case file. "Do you want to press charges?" Ramirez asked. Elena hesitated for only a second. "Yes." Neighbors peeked through curtains. Mrs. Hargrove across the way stood right on her porch, robe flapping, arms folded. When their eyes met, Elena gave a small nod. Mrs. Hargrove nodded back. A promise, finally kept. What followed was a blur built of small, deliberate choices. Urgent care, X-rays, diagnosis, contusion, possible hairline fracture, police reports signed, a temporary restraining order filed with Laura at her side, a judge's signature granting distance, 500 feet, no contact, surrender firearms. Her boss at the library told her, "Take the time you need, your job is safe." She cried into her coffee from relief. Laura stayed. Together they bagged Marcus's clothes, changed the locks, finally installed the Ring camera Elena had bought months ago and been too afraid to use. Each act felt like shedding skin. The messages started the same evening. "Come pick me up. You'll regret this." She saved every one. Pattern mattered. Evidence piled up. Texts, emails, screenshots. Then Mrs. Hargrove brought a USB drive from her late husband's security cameras. The footage showed Marcus's hand arcing across Elena's face, time-stamped and undeniable. She watched it once, then turned it over to Ramirez and refused to look again. The preliminary hearing brought it all into sharp focus. Judge Alvarez, stern and sharp-eyed, paged through the thick packet. Photos, medical reports, video, neighbor testimony. Marcus claimed provocation over burnt dinner. His cousin muttered about mutual arguments. The judge's raised eyebrow said everything. Elena testified calmly about the good years and the bad, the slow tightening of control, the growing danger. She did not cry. When asked if she ever hit him, she simply answered, no. The judge extended the restraining order, ordered Marcus into a year-long batterers program, and left the house in Elena's possession pending divorce. But abuse rarely ends with the first court win. A brick shattered the living room window one night. A note wrapped around it. Liar. The driveway was spray-painted red by morning. Police found no prints. Patrol cars began cruising past more often. Elena reinforced windows, installed motion lights, and kept a baseball bat under her bed. The divorce attorney, Diane, was a shark in pearls, as promised. They documented everything and quietly disentangled Elena's life from Marcus's new bank account. Paycheck rerouted, credit cards closed. Then came the break-in. Elena woke at 2:14 a.m. to the shriek of the alarm. She and her cousin Sophia barricaded themselves in the studio. The kitchen was ransacked. Flour exploded across the floor. Magnets rearranged to spell one word, mine. Nothing stolen, only a message. Fingerprints matched Jake, a former co-worker of Marcus with a record. His phone held texts. Scare her. Make her drop it. A payment trail led straight back to Marcus. This time there was no bail. New charges, stalking, conspiracy. As the criminal trial approached, Elena's life slowly filled with more than fear. Support groups and a trauma therapist helped her reclaim her voice. Self-defense classes taught her how to shout no and mean it. At home, she painted nearly every night. Broken glass turned to prisms, bricks transformed into bleeding red words that shifted into warrior. Her art caught attention. A local gallery offered her a show. Shattered, Not Broken sold to a women's shelter for their lobby. Other paintings followed, funding legal fees and security upgrades. She met Sarah, Marcus's ex before her, in a cafe Laura chose for its wide windows and many witnesses. Sarah's story matched Elena's almost beat for beat. She agreed to testify, determined that Elena would be the last, not just the latest. Trial turned Elena's life into exhibits and testimony. The prosecution laid out the story, the violence, harassments, the hired intimidation. Sarah and Mrs. Hargrove testified. Jake took a plea and pointed straight at Marcus. The defense tried to paint Elena as manipulative, exaggerating for the house. They talked about burnt dinner and mutual conflict. The jury saw the X-rays, the grainy video of the slap, the digital trail of threats. When it was her turn, Elena took the stand. "I loved you," she told Marcus, voice steady. "I believed love could fix anything, but love doesn't bruise. Love doesn't threaten. Love doesn't hire someone to terrorize me. I am not your possession. I choose freedom. The jury took 4 hours to return, guilty on all counts. Sentencing, more paperwork, more hearings. The divorce finalized with Marcus on a screen from the county facility, smaller and pale. Elena kept the house. The restraining order became long-term. Life didn't become perfect, but it became hers. She turned the dining room sage green, hosted brunches for her support group, and taught art workshops to survivors. Her book, Pancakes and Power, grew from journal entries and courtroom statements and eventually made its way into indie bestseller lists and shelters' resource shelves. The kitchen, once a battleground, became a refuge. Every year on the anniversary of the pancake arrest, she cooked breakfast at the shelter mountains of pancakes, bacon, and berries for women who were where she once had been. When a trembling teenager once asked, "How did you know it was time to leave?" Elena flipped a pancake, watched bubbles appear, and said, "When making breakfast for him felt like serving my own sentence. When the smell of bacon meant fear instead of comfort, that's when I knew." Years later, she stood in a bright gallery at her own retrospective. On one wall hung a painting of a woman at a breakfast table, lit by sunrise, reaching for a fork with a steady hand. Title, "The Morning After." Critics called it triumphant. Elena just called it Tuesday. That night, she walked home through a quiet cul-de-sac. Kids had chalked rainbows across the pavement where red paint once screamed. Her husband, now kind, patient, chosen, waited on the porch with coffee. The dog's tail thumped. The cat barely glanced up. Inside, Elena whisked batter for pancakes, this time for Joy and nothing else. The kitchen smelled of vanilla and safety. The table was hers. The cycle was broken, and the pancakes, finally, were perfect.